Transcending grief and loss. Thanks for connecting with me. Today, I just wanted to talk from my heart. I had written a few scripts which were part of my blog post, but I decided let me just connect with you on an authentic level based on what's coming to or speaking through my heart right now. So, in terms of transcending grief and loss, the first thing that comes to mind when I've been impacted by grief, and the latest one, which was the past 2 days, I've been reflecting and also paying respects to the memory of my Mon Petit Ange, my younger sister, Lorraine, who passed away 6 years ago. And some of the words that I heard were, time heals, or you will get over, not get over it as such, but it will pass. It gets easier. That's the word I heard. Be strong. Okay, so just in terms of those words, that it does get easier. My question to you is, does it get easier, and does it have to get easier? This is in relation to grief. My experience over the past couple of days, I started off with waking up wanting to celebrate her memory, because I felt as though my grief had transcended to a place where I felt that I could rejoice, celebrate, and be happier. So that's how I started off in the morning. As the day progressed on, then I was hit again with the familiar, expected, and unexpected emotions that I've experienced throughout the years ever since she passed, and anybody else who have been connected through via loss, who I've lost that is close to me. There have been similar types of waves that come and go. This is why I asked the question of, does it have to get easier, or is it better to expect that life is a process? Life and death is a process, that it takes time to go through a healing process. And not all of us will experience the same level of healing experiences, even though we've been affected by the same by losing the same person. Our shared experiences would signify the impact on a different level. Okay, so in society, we are used to rushing through processes. Okay, especially if you are still connected to work, there's this sense of urgency. Rightly so, because some of us who are still working, we're employees, so there's the expectancy to fill that void, to fill that gap. And often what's forgotten is that a person, or you, are still going through the grieving process. Okay, so we tend to expedite, rush through the process, intentionally and then unintentionally. Intentionally because there's demands for the economy, for the financial aspects of it. So that might be forced in terms of expectations by organizations. Independently, you might also feel rushed yourself to show up and be expected to be this personality that has got through certain things of grief. Okay, so just in terms of let me connect to like what's going on now. And I think death is resonating more with me now, just in terms of the things that I've been talking about have been happiness. So they've been about self-care, self-love, so let me start all over again. Self-care, self-love, and also about connecting more to happiness, being compassionate, empathetic, caring, and loving towards a human being, being, because the experience that we're going through right now, it's something as well that can also similarly relate to a process of going through like a grieving process, the steps of grieving, because it's an impact that has happened which has forced us into something that is unexpected, where we've had to shift our outlook in life. So what you probably were used to now has been thrown upside down, and throughout like the past year you probably were transcending through similar emotions of my world is falling apart. There's fear, so you're confronted by your own mortality of all of us, about what impact the coronavirus will have on an individual, and then on a holistic level to anybody that you're connected with. That itself heightens so many emotions. So you could have gone through emotions of anger, externally, because you're being forced to do certain things that you didn't expect yourself to do. Anger because things have been taken away from you. And then through the emotions of crying, because of the absurdity, the madness, the surrealism of everything that is going on. It's almost like you're living like a dream. So that's why I say that some of the feelings and emotions resemble the process of going through grief, because you're having to come to terms with who you are as a person, what it means to live this life, how then you can progress going forward, knowing that there's certain risks still surrounding you. Okay, so then when it comes to the loss, this is a shared experience. Although it is a shared experience, what I mean is like we've all been affected, we've all been afflicted in one way or another in terms of its impact. But as with grief, is that as much as you may feel together, it can also be an isolating experience. Okay, so you can feel very alone, although you have experienced the grieving, although you have experienced loss with close people to you and external sources who share similar experience. Reason being is you might not feel comfortable talking because you feel as though if you talk about it, it could impact somebody else. It would make them feel like very emotional that's close to you, so you close up your emotions. Or you could be going through other experiences where you just want to hang on to your experience and not share it out. There's no right or wrong way about it. Now I'll talk about what I've found helpful for myself. I'll go to 2 days ago. I went for a walk. I said my little peaceful moments by the seaside, because that's where I connect with and I feel really grounded to who I am as a spiritual being. So that's where I was able to let go some of the emotions that I was feeling, and then to also reconnect with the message that I wanted to send out there in the memory of my sister. Then I also I wrote in my existential blogs, because that's what has helped me for the longest time, for as long as I can remember, to articulate the feelings that I'm feeling, especially in moments where my emotions don't make any sense and I can't immediately reach out to somebody. Then I tend to write. Okay, so that's also like something that's helped me to little by little to start to heal. Okay, but it is also in the knowledge and the awareness that it takes time, and that the grief level will transcend over time. Okay, the pain itself, I'll be quite honest, you felt like yesterday. So these are just little outlets. And over the past years, if you don't know me very well, I'm an existential psychotherapy student, and I've also gone through training myself. So the training itself is about confronting who you are as a person, living your most authentic self as much as possible. So what this looks like is being very self-aware that we are not exceptional beings, that death is something that is prevalent, coming to terms with my own fears about what death means like, and me, myself, living my life right now as though every day is my last day. That's how I try to live it. as part of like my spiritual existentialism study. And it's also been about confronting the things that I fear the most and then showing up as honestly as I can with myself. So starting internally from me and then with my connection with you is to be myself as much as possible. Why is that important? It's important because then you are living life more in a fulfilled way so that you have no regrets. You're more self-aware and conscious of the present in terms of what you're doing. Okay, and so you're also allowing yourself, it's not all about happiness, it's also allowing yourself the moments to be honest when you're challenged by complex emotions. It's not about saying those emotions don't exist, they exist, but it's what is your outlet? How are you able to then express those emotions aside from like social media? Okay, because social media can be fleeting. Who is your constant source that you can connect to that can help you? And if there's no constant source, there's also professional support. So when I mentioned that I've gone through training, part of my training was also going through my own personal psychotherapy. And that psychotherapy was about sitting in front of somebody who mirrored me. And all the work was my doing. Okay, so I was only reflecting what I was feeling to them and then reassessing the words that I was using and redefining them in order to make sense of it. So what I mean by this is that sometimes my emotions were exaggerated in the terms of I felt like, let me see, what is something that is an exaggeration? Okay, so probably like, let's say for instance, if I was fearful of something, when I spoke it out loud, I'm trying to stay as close to life and death matters. So yeah, okay. So in terms of like going through like my experiencing my chronic pain condition, fibromyalgia, sometimes I felt like I was being challenged in terms of my life expectancy. So I would say words which were the fear, not necessarily fear of death, but I think it was just the fear of I might never heal, the fear of probably not being able to achieve things that I wanted to achieve. So it's like your life flashes before you. So I had to challenge those realities and actually make it more realistic. That's where I'm trying to get to. Make it more realistic by confronting the fears so that every day becomes much more easier to live with. Okay, so just in terms of grief, the other thing that comes to mind as well is that I was thinking earlier, we often get caught up, and it has been as of recent, in political issues, political wars, or whatever it may be. And it's more prevalent now because there's the significant impact that has happened, the pandemic, which has intensified everything else to make the impact feel greater. So where we were before, some people would have hidden most of like their agenda or how they felt, and now it's more out there in terms of people being outwardly about how they feel about other people. So in terms of that, to me, I always find it as it can be good energy, especially if it's healthily debated. Okay, if you mutually meet and are able to listen to each other and respect each other for their differences. Where it becomes unhealthy is where it becomes disrespectful, where it becomes demeaning another human being. So this is where self-love, self-care, compassion, love, kindness for another human being comes in. Because at the end of the day, linking back to life and death, is that all these things, the wars, the conflicts, the unhealthy debates which destroy other people, they will not matter. At the end of the day, when we're confronted with our own existence, okay, our own when we're confronted by death, all those things will not matter. What will matter most is you reflecting on who you were as a person, and what you want to leave this earth with. So it's more meaningful to connect to the things which are of value, that contribute to adding a greater purpose in life, which contribute to a better understanding of what is different, that contribute to being empathetic to other people, loving other people, because all of us, we are connected, interconnected through the universal experiences that we go through. And that significant universal thing that we go through is loss, the experience of losing somebody. Okay, or even if you may hear it and never experience it, it's still an impact. Okay, that's what connects us. And at the end of the day, we come into this world alone, we die alone. And the last thing is that happiness, which is something that I started off with, it is not the hardest thing to come by. It is the easiest thing to come by and embrace, especially when you have the opportunities to do. When you're happy internally and fulfilled, the likelihood is that what you put out there will be something that you yourself will feel more fulfilled by, and your impacts and connections will become much more meaningful, a more meaningful space of shared humankind experience. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you for connecting with me.